You're looking at the rack ends, the tie rod ends, the steering grommet rubbers, steering grommet bushings, the steering boot, and the rack and pinion bushings. Another bushing that was famous was the steering rack bushing itself, that had to be disassembled, pull apart, taken to a machine shop, have one rebuilt and refitted to have the car up and running, because that bushing wasn't sold by itself. In order to get that bushing, then you'd have to buy one portion of the steering rack or the entire assembly itself, which you'll see here, 45510. Again, when I go back to my post, I say the things we take for granted, thanks to all mechanics who were trained to keep us safe. And I stand by my post. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Parts Talk. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. First off, I welcome you to grab a copy of my ebook, The Parts Manager Guide, Proven Strategies Used to Maximize Sales and Process Improvement. The link will be in the description box below if you have already done so. Thank you again for your support. Today's video, I'm going to go a little bit into a post I made on my community tab. And it is a picture of the complete spring assembly, which you're seeing here. And on that picture I posted, I pointed out here, at one point spring blades were sold separately. If one broke, then you'd have to disassemble the entire pack. Or imagine when the noise was unbearable, silencers and spring bushings were also replaceable. The technology has come a far way. The things we take for granted, thanks to all the mechanics who were trained to keep us safe. And that was my post. A number of comments followed and on which we went back and forth, but I want to go a little bit into this because I was a parts manager for more than 15 years. I've been in the automotive industry for more than 25 years, so I know a little bit about this. The spring assembly that I've nominated today to go a little more in depth is that of the Toyota Coaster bus, the HZB 50 series, made in Japan and distributed all across the world, well, except here in the north, of course. But if you go to Caribbean countries in Africa, the Middle East, anywhere there's mostly a tropical country, you will see these coaster buses running around as public transportation and private transportation in the tourism industry. I'll be using one of the online parts catalog just to show you exactly what we went through in selling these items. Not toe-to-toe, but trying to explain the post I had earlier. There was a full model change in 1993. The HZB 50 series came out. It only came out with two springs, double spring blades in the back. Toyota engineers sought to correct that because they were breaking very often due to the weight capacity that these buses will move around. After such, they added a third blade on the spring assembly, which you can see here. 1, 2, 3, the main blade, second blade, and the third blade. And being the weight capacity on these buses were 29 seaters, but because they were mostly in the private transportation system, conductors and drivers would usually have to add more passengers than the normal in order to collect a sustainable amount to have these buses in operations. The weight capacity also caused the main blade, second blade to break a lot. Another thing that mechanics had to disassemble while replacing these parts were the silencers. You can see here 48252. For a lot of the persons who couldn't afford to buy the replacement blades, then the mechanics themselves would have to disassemble these items, take them to a machine shop, and then the machine shop would have these blades made from iron or steel materials, whatever material they chose, because in essence it made sense at the time. Then again, the spring assembly here could not sustain the weight capacity that was being loaded onto them on a day-to-day basis. They were cracking ever so often. So the Toyota manufacturers, doing what they do best, they will send their engineers across the various regions to observe their products and to find out exactly why dealerships in the Caribbean or anywhere else were ordering these spring assemblies at such enormous rate. Lo and behold, their studies pointed out that because they were cracking so often and the weight capacity, because the population grew in such large amounts and these buses were in such high demand, then they had to do something about it. This was when they introduced 8-blade capacity that you're seeing here. They didn't break as often. However, first, second, and third blades would break. It would be a lot more time consuming for the mechanics to disassemble this entire pack, to take it out, to go to the machine shop, to have them made, and then to come back. Another factor was that the prices of these spring assemblies were that of the same as removing and replacing them. So it made absolutely no sense after a while. It was much more cheaper for the mechanics to just remove the entire assembly and then replace them with another one, because they made it much more expensive in order to replace one single blade. Some of these buses were also equipped with stabilizer bar, stabilizer link, and stabilizer link rubbers at the back. And then whenever these goes bad, they will make some of the most excruciating noise. Imagine driving around and you hear it squeaking constantly in and around these buses as they go along. Another part of the assembly was replacing these hangers and the bump stop rubbers that would prevent the chassis from slamming onto the complete spring assembly itself. And also the spring eye rubbers here. These were something that were in very high demand at the time because they were needed. As you can see from the picture here, a 29-seater bus sometimes had the capacity of carrying over 50, 60, 70 people over long distances, short distances as well, and they were under constant pressure. So when I make posts like these on my community tab, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna just put them there just to make an article or just to make a video or just to try to make a statement. I can also provide proof of what I'm talking about. A very popular vehicle, which was a Toyota Corolla, because I work in a Toyota dealership, I was selling these parts ever so often. You're looking at the rack ends, the tie rod ends, the steering grommet rubbers, steering grommet bushings, the steering boot, and the rack and pinion bushings. Another bushing that was famous was the steering rack bushing itself, that had to be disassembled, pull apart, taken to a machine shop, have one rebuilt and refitted to have the car up and running, because that bushing wasn't sold by itself. In order to get that bushing, then you'd have to buy one portion of the steering rack or the entire assembly itself, which you'll see here, 455.10. Again, when I go back to my post, I say the things we take for granted, thanks to all mechanics who were trained to keep us safe. And I stand by my post. Now to see a different side of what the Toyota Coaster looked like in the luxury model, let's take a look right here. I had to take out the sound because of copyright. And if you're ever in Jamaica, this is how some of the operators get around. When I put posts like these, is because I know exactly what I have experienced in the past. Anywhere there's a tree, there's an open space, there's a tarp, or anywhere like it, a mechanic will make that area his home in order to work on the vehicle. So I encourage a lot of the mechanics here, especially in the north, travel, go out. When you go to another country, just take the time and look around and observe the vehicles on the road, observe the workshops, try to observe the garages that are there. If you have the chance, walk inside a dealership, talk with the mechanics there, talk with the service managers there, look at their facilities and compare them to what you have here enjoying in the States. Then you'll understand exactly how grateful you are to be enjoying some of the world-class facilities you have here. And for the mechanics in those countries, they do their very best also to keep their infrastructures going. So let's start the conversation below. Remember to grab a copy of my book, The Parts Manager Guide. Please smash that like button on your way out. It will only take you 1.5 seconds to do so. Until next time.